Welcome, BBCers, to episode number 137 of the number one SoloQ motivational and informative podcast, the Broken by Concept League of Legends podcast. Curtis, today we love reviewing, right? We spend all our day reviewing, Curtis. We're going to get into some weeds of a review that I did this week, Curtis.
Okay.
And get across a mindset, a way of thinking about, how League of Legends works as like a tool for our viewers.
Okay.
So this is Ghost, we call him in SoloQ.
What rank is this?
So this is Master Tier on the Brazil server.
Okay.
But that's aside the point. This tool's applicable to anyone, I think. All right. So just giving some context here. So in terms of our review process, Curtis, right?
And I'm assuming he's the Kindred here.
He's the Kindred here, yeah. We talk a lot about in the podcast about respecting the snowball nature of League of Legends, right? Okay. And how, we talk a lot about how, your early game decision making, is going to influence like the rest of the game. And you know what? A lot of people come to us with is saying, mid-game problems, mid-game, right? There is genuine mid-game problems that we do need to solve. But bringing it back to, just making sure that, that we're really respecting our early game mistakes and really, really understand. I feel like there's a difference with some of my clients that understand how important their early game mistakes are. And they're typically the ones that like get results really quickly. And then others that like, they sort of get it, but like they don't get it. They need to spend a lot more time in SoloQ and just show and just keep chipping away, review. You have that experience as well?
Yes, I'd love to riff off this. So starting the mid lane school, right, the below gold, I've actually had a bunch of conversations with my community there about this exact concept, because what I've noticed.
So to clarify, your mid lane school, this is our new program for new players.
This is below gold.
Iron,
bronze, level 30s, silvers, bronzes, all of them, right? What I've noticed, and I'm already starting to see the shift, is I have a channel, which is essentially where people can like put a VOD. And they can say, send the VOD and they can say their problem in this VOD. At the start, majority of it's like the first maybe week or two, the problems are very much there was a lot of the mid-game. I struggled heading into mid-game. I didn't know what to do mid-game. I died at this dragon fight or Baron, but whatever it might be, some mid-game shenanigan, right? And I knew heading into this, that's exactly what was going to happen. We know, and this is the same thing, not just in the MLS, the mid lane school, but also in the mid lane academy. When someone comes into the program for the first time, they talk a lot about the mid game. And I end up, now I've started pushing out lessons in my mid lane school. I've spoken about champ mastery. I've done a lesson on CSing, wave management, theory, wave management execution. Now I'm going to do one on reset soon, right? All focus on mid lane fundamentals. People are now slowly getting it. They're now starting to realize, oh, wow, yeah, if I can actually manage the wave and last hit well, this actually does massively change my early game. I can see the cogs turning and the questions are changing. I actually answered I saw a really good quality question today that I answered. It was in the league chat channel when it said, Curtis, was there any way that I could have froze this wave? And we got into the weeds of this wave and how he went for a high value E. I'm like, great. He's playing Victor, playing high value E laser on the wave. He used his W on the wave to try and slow down the wave. I'm like, great. And I mentioned the concept of making the enemy sweat for the wave to get it in.
Yeah.
Because you can sit back and relax and let them get the wave in easy, or you can make
it work for it.
Yeah, make them burn mana and resources and cooldowns, and that changes the game massively. And I just this is a great little discussion, because we're talking about waves in the early game. It was level 4. It just brought a massive smile to my face, because I knew this guy now is starting to get it. He's starting to get that this is what League of Legends is about.
Starting to understand the game big picture.
Picture.
It's not so much early game, mid game, of just this is the way it works. Because the thing about the early game concepts,
especially with lane, is waves are the foundation of the game, right? It's really
that's what everyone's decision making is based on, even
waves.
The junglers.
That's right, waves. And it was just made me really happy to see this question contrast to the type of questions that I saw at the beginning of the program. Now, I kind of led on, we did a big with the other day a big discussion about this topic as well. And again, I say this, right? I have the exact same experience with you. There's clients in the MLA, again, my high relo program, where they get it. They just get it.
Yeah.
Like
I'd say
clicks,
get
right?
it. Sometimes I have a couple that actually surprise me, like how hardcore they are. Sometimes, like they will say like, "Oh, this is end of review, isn't it?" I'm like, "Oh, I was actually going to keep reviewing like maybe another situation." Like, I'm pretty happy to end it there.
They really
they
get it,
really
right?
understand.
But then you see those people that don't get it at all, and then you get the people that are kind of in that like middle ground, right? But that's where I think most people are. They're in that middle ground where like they're kind of
in the middle ground,
right?
yeah.
Now, the reason, the conclusion that I've came to with this though, right, is that I found that there is no way to, like, you can't get someone from who doesn't get it to gets it in a short period of time. No. It actually takes a long time, and there's a reason for that. My theory is that for mid lane anyway, until you feel what it's like to have a great first 8 minutes with all the fundamentals joined together. And it's like a feeling. It's like you're Super Saiyan. It's like all the pieces then click. It's like, okay, I knew what I needed to do with the wave. I knew how to do it with the wave. I knew what my matchup was. I knew when to lean and ward. I knew how to get a good reset. I knew it all ties together beautifully, because in mid, waves, resets, warding and leaning, they all join together. Yeah. They're all interconnected. And once you get that and you get how those concepts connect, and you for the first time, when you experience that perfect, really good quality 8 minutes, then and only then will the client get it, because it's a feeling. You're like, oh wow, yeah, I'm actually now hitting it to 10 minutes. I've got great farm. I'm way ahead in tempo. I'm getting pressure. I've got vision. Oh yeah, it's actually...
And they realize that there's really low chance I'm going to lose this game. Like, I can just close out this game pretty cleanly.
That's right. This. And so I don't think there is a way to really... The only way to streamline it is really keep drilling the fundamentals of the game. That's right. And then get them... Once they understand it and they can execute upon it, and then again and again and again, once they execute on that one time, it all clicks together... This smooth sailing. It reminds me very, very similar, actually, of my experience skateboarding as a kid, where I remember when I first did like an ollie for the first time, right, which is just a jump on the board, right? You would grind for I remember I couldn't ollie for ages. I just kept trying, and then you do it once. And then once you do it once, you can just do it every time.
I see, because you got clicks. The
feel. You know what that feeling was once, and all it takes is once. Wow. And same thing happened for a kickflip and all these other. And once you drop in on a ramp as well, same experience. It's weird. It's just that one time, and I've noticed it in League as well, which is very, very fascinating.
All right, so let's go back to our example here, which I think will really encapsulate everything we've just said. Yep. So let me get on my glasses so I can actually see this. All right, so back to our Brazil player, Master on Ghost. So I have two screenshots. This is the mid game one where he was like, okay, I want to figure out how to win this game from this point. All right. So do a quick exercise, Curtis. I want you to analyze this and tell me
what I see,
what you see here.
Okay, so he's the Kindred here. So it's 16 minutes in the game. He's got a dragon. He's got what is the top matchup? The Quinn. Quinn versus a Riven. Riven's behind. He's got an ASOL versus an ASOL mid here versus a Talon. And you've got a Karthus here at 1.5 items. Kindred's at, 1.5 items as well. Bot lane, 1.5 item. What is that here? Is that a Jin? Looks like a Jin.
The Jin Thresh into a Varus. He has a Varus Renata, and they're 1 and 5. And the gold leads 3,000. He's 3,000 gold behind.
Well, the game is on him, right? That's the first thing the game is on Kindred, right? There's no one else that can really take over this game, in my opinion, apart from Kindred cannot make another mistake. It might already be over. Right? When I look at this.
He does have 7 marks, is also pretty fed.
Right.
So so you know how you're saying that like the game's on him, right? So I was explaining to Ghost here, it's like, okay, I'm seeing this game because obviously we're trying to teach and like give you like consistent things you can apply to all games. When I see this game, this screenshot, this will be up on the screen for our Spotify podcast listeners if you want to check it. This is a game where he has basically no win condition, right?
Full AD composition, full AD, lethality Varus.
Everyone's losing on his team. Aurelion Sol's scaling. Like he is this is a game that's actually rare. This is actually pretty rare in terms of mid game. Like you have basically 0 win condition except for yourself.
Yeah, but I would if I saw this screenshot again, the first thing that comes to mind is that he's contributed to this situation though.
That's correct.
Right? Like there's no way that you would have 3 losing lanes, right? He's obviously done something wrong. He's got 4 deaths, right? Like a lot of the time when I look at this, sure, we can review this and we can try and figure out a way to win. But a lot of the time, if I'm looking at the screenshot, it's like, well, the game's already kind of been decided in my mind.
And the key thing as well is that in terms of your overall journey, figuring out a solution to this type of game, I feel is just not worth the effort.
Yes, I agree.
All right, so
this
that's
is
the
not
thing.
the reason he's master.
No, that's right.
Yes, yeah.
You know, this is if I'm planted in this game right now and had good champ master on Kindred, I genuinely said I don't even know.
I don't know
what
how to
you
win.
do.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
But the thing is, it doesn't mean there isn't a way to win.
No.
Right? Because
He can
people make
mechanics max,
mistakes.
catch people off guard. Obviously,
People make mistakes. No one's going to play flawlessly. But in order to win this game, you would have to play like out of your mind. Like you would have to be like a challenger player to win in this master game from this situation. And even then, that's not even
really
reliable.
hard, yeah. And that's the thing
Yeah.
that we're trying to remember. That's when we're reviewing. That's what I'm saying. The toolkits
Right.
that I'm trying to give everyone is like, you know, what we're looking for in our reviews is like something consistent that we can sort of take away.
Right.
And I mean, obviously, you know, you and I are a bit more experienced, so we can identify this really quickly. But, you know, some games you might feel it's like, you know, this
Right,
is
so
just too difficult to problem
So what you're
solve.
saying is that like this is an example of like someone might see this and then try to figure
problem
out a
solve,
win.
yeah.
Right. There's
and
no
they
point
spend
in trying.
half an hour on this.
Right,
But there's
right.
just nothing that we're going to get here that's consistent for another game.
Yeah, and the main reason where that comes from is just if I were to like just streamline it, it's like you got a full AD comp.
Yep.
And everyone's basically behind.
And you're against a pretty scaling
and
comp.
you're versus a scaling comp, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like this is just an incredibly difficult game.
Those are the
We'll keep on going on this screenshot, but there's something I really want to talk about, which is so scary because it's the exact same thing I said today in a client with a master client.
Okay, awesome.
But we can talk about in a second.
All right, so now given this screenshot, guys,
Yep.
I want to show you now, it's great. I don't even need a clip for you guys. All I'm going to do is show you a screenshot, and Curtis will be able to pick this up instantly. This is the actual game-losing mistake we talked about in the review. This is where it was end of review.
All right, let's take a look at this.
All right, so you can analyze this, Curtis.
All right,
Let's
so
look at
again,
the-
Top's
what's the map say?
losing. So that's we're not going to go top side. Kinder's 2-1. Cartha's 0-2. Yeah, okay. I mean, I literally, I just looked at the minimap for 1
Yeah,
second.
that's it.
And I already know it's not going to work, right? Because ASOL
Yeah.
has move, Talon's under the tower.
Yeah.
This is not going to work. And look at the wave state, it's not going to work at
Yep.
all.
That's right.
That's
so,
right.
and that's the great thing about this, guys, is like, I don't even need the clip. We can just instantly identify
Yeah.
from
It's
this
a
map
bad
state.
gank.
This is going to lose him the game. All right. So they actually like trade some like 1-for-1 and all that sort of stuff, but they can't because Ghost top lane's losing so hard. He can't make an error on this. Like this has
you
to
can't
be a
make a mistake.
beautifully executed bot play.
Yep.
And essentially all I told him, all what you do to correctly make a huge advantage is all you're going to do is you're going to wait for Talon
Yep.
around mid,
Get
wait for him
shoved.
to get shoved, then walk in because Karthus and Aurelion Sol cannot defend the jungle at all.
And Talon's way stronger than ASOL right now.
And what's happening with bot wave right now?
Yeah, they're getting shoved in.
They can just sit there and just freeze it for ages.
they don't need you to be here.
They don't need you to be here, and then you just dive on the next couple of
Yep,
waves.
just chill.
Right? And then you're going to get a double kill. You're going to kill everyone. You're going to break bots out. You've got a clear win condition bot. You just gain a
There's
3,000
so
gold
much
lead.
to unpack in that. Like the mindset behind that play, by the way, is so much to unpack.
All right, so that's a separate point, Curtis.
Okay,
Right? So
yeah.
again, let's tie the knot on our
Okay,
first point. It's
right.
talking about like Ghost wanted to review that 16-minute point, that screenshot before. Right?
Oh, right.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the same
Yeah,
game, right?
yeah.
And then this is the 9-minute. This is the play where he couldn't because his top's losing so hard. And you have clear responsibilities this game. Again, going back to you're on a time in this game because you got a pretty heavy AD comp. You can't mis-execute these type of situations because it's just one of those hard games.
When I look at this, by the way, straight up, this type of game, this to me looks like one of those games. Like, you know how we talk about, people talk about win rates, right? We talk about how most people are going to climb with like maybe a 52 to 55% win rate, right? If you're winning these games, you're in like the 60% win rate bracket.
Yes,
You know?
these are the things that tip you over the edge if you figure out how to win these games.
Like if you're winning these games, like you're climbing very fast. Most people don't win these types of games. Like you have to play very, very well. You have to play significantly significantly above your elo bracket to win games like this. That's like something. That's like important to think about here.
Yeah, that's a really good mindset. I agree. The way the system works.
Yeah, just so to reiterate, tie this all together. Yeah, I have noticed that tendency, people to kind of over-review unwinnable games. I'll talk about this one today, right? So, again, Valk, he's a Katarina one-trick in NA, did a review today, and it was a Katarina game, right? Look at the comp he was versing. It was a Annie mid, Maokai jungle, Nautilus MF bot, and I think it was a a Riven top or something. It was like every member of their team, minus the AD carry, had hard CC, right? And his top lane, lost lane, right, was getting like solo killed, and they died on they got late invaded level 1. Right, his Vi got late invaded level 1. So already I said, this is an incredibly, before I even looked at the gameplay, I said, just look at the comms. That's what I always do. I was like, this is an incredibly difficult game where you can't really afford to make a single mistake because you're just not going to win. Like, if you get all the kills, you're still going to lose because they can just dogpile you. So then what happened? Yeah, they get invaded level 1, and I said it's his fault because he didn't cover the entrance. Top lane died like 2 or 3 times solo kill. And he got himself into somehow, like he's actually very good. So he got solo killed mid, got himself into a good position, and then dies to a support roam. And I said, this is end of review. Like this one mistake, this is game over, right? But I'm going to review it just like sometimes I do a bit of an experiment. Like we'll go a little bit further.
Let's see what else.
Just see what else. And then there was a huge end of review play where he like kills mid. They get rift, they break mid, he's sitting on 1,600 gold, and then he like tries to make another play bot. Like just, like the whole thing we talk about, you're making too many turns. Like you got one turn, you got to go back, and like forces this play and compensates and dies, right? And I said, okay, I said to quote, this is like mega end of review. This is in like, we're completely at lost the ball here.
Absolute end of review.
But my point being is like, you would look at the score was, and it was 4-1, and they broke mid. And I still said the game was already over in my opinion because I don't know how you win this game. There is no win con. The bot was losing, his Vi jungle was behind, and top was losing, and he was the one with all the kills. You can't play the game in mid game into that comp. So I said I don't know how to win this game, and I said the only way you win a game like this, like when you're playing it, is you're just capitalizing on enemy mistakes and just being very opportunistic, very patient.
This is where your like instincts and free flow and game sense will kick in, which is, again, from our perspective, the way we reviews, this is not really teachable things, like this is just going to be your gameplay, your level of play, and you're just going to see and execute, just have a crack.
And the quote I literally said, this is not the reason you're low master. Like this game, like you losing this game is not the reason you're low master. Right? But the mistakes inside of it, like I said, these mistakes, like you were going to lose the game anyway, but these mistakes that he did, like the overstaying and the not tracking the support rooms, they are the reasons he's losing games. Games that you should win.
Yeah. And that's happening a lot consistently over all
that's right. That's what we've seen.
But just this one-off game, these one-off games.
But I feel like, again, the longer someone is in our programs, they kind of see how we go about it. And like, that's actually quite common. I'll get reviews a lot like that. I'm like, yeah, we're going to review this. We don't win this game, but there's still learning to be had.
Yeah.
Because you still have this game, right? Like, let's say Kindred plays this game really well. She, at this point, let's say she doesn't go for this gank here, backs off, resets, plays through mid, gets prior with talent, invades, whatever, does all these things, and then, like, the team just keep dying. Like, okay.
That's right.
Like, you can play this well and still lose, but I'm sure there's still learnings inside of there. Like, that's, like, the narrative that you always got to remember. Like, that's the message you got to remember in the back of your mind. So I've got a segue thing into this though. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, that's it. That's the only 2 screenshots I had for this, which is just, again, there's so much. I love it that League is a game where so much can tell us in
just one screenshot.
Yeah, one screenshot, you just instantly know. It's like, this is like that meme. It's like that video is like, this is when you know, like I fucked up, whatever. It's like a bad, like that's what it's like.
It actually is. Just looking at that, by the way, it is a great example of just how, like, when we're working with clients, really what we're trying to do, Nathan, at the end of the day, is get them to understand the underlying variables that make the play not work or work.
That's right.
That's what you're trying to do.
Yep.
It's like, okay, this gank's going to work because look at the wave, look at the heavy trading, look at the prio, boom, boom, boom. This is going to work. Okay, this one doesn't work. Why does it not work? Oh, yep, your mid doesn't have shove.
It's like a checklist. You just tick them off.
It's like a checklist. And over time, you just get better at processing those variables. That's all it really is.
That's right.
Just information processing.
And it looks simple on the surface. Like, even Ghost in that review is like, yeah, this is just, I can't believe I'm losing the game on this, but this is just the respect that you have to give League of Legends because it's so hard to consistently do these things.
That is what makes League hard, the consistency of the execution. Spot on. While we're on the topic, and again, I don't want to be talking about Master Plus all the time, but I just thought this is kind of like a thought. So I wanted to start with where it came from. Connor from the MLA, he left a note saying something along the lines of, he's a goal player. and he overheard, he comes in, like, watches Master reviews, right? And one of the comments he said was like, I've noticed that some, like, in Master Plus, there's a lot of people that kind of take it for granted that they have the opportunity to verse really good players and learn from, like, challenger players. And he thought that was really interesting because, like, as a Master player, you are theoretically versing the best players on your server. And he kind of viewed that in a he's like, oh, isn't that, like, I feel like it's a missed opportunity. These people are kind of demoralized, or they're not viewing it as a cool learning experience. Like, he was viewing it through a very positive light. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, you're versing the best players. You can learn from the best players. That's awesome, right? And I'm like, that's cool. That's great. You're spot on. Like, that would be in theory, that is a great mindset to adopt. And you're spot on. But then I proceeded to explain why that really is difficult to do in reality for most Master Tier players, right? So I want to take a second to break this down. Now, we've spoken many times on this podcast about how Master Plus is kind of like this different thing, right? It's kind of like the ladder, Iron to D1, and then there's like Master Plus, right? I would say we know that if anyone's getting, Platinum, they're a good player. We know that because we coach a lot of players and we looked at the percentages. A Diamond 4 is a great player, right? But what I've noticed, right, is that, in school, I don't know what it's like in America and Europe, but like in in Australia, we have primary school, which is basically prep, or like year 1 to grade 6. And then you have high school, which is year 7 to year 12, right? You remember when you're in primary school and you get to year 6 and you like walk around the yard thinking you're the big dog, right? Yeah. And you're like everyone knows you. You're feeling really comfortable.
You're the biggest physically.
You're the bigger than everyone else, and you feel like you own the joint, right? And you got these like, really confident. And then you go to high school, and you're only you're only older, but your demeanor changes completely because you're the youngest and the smallest. And everyone else around you, this year 9s are scary, year 10s and year 12s are like, what the hell,
yeah,
right?
They're like so far in the distance. Like even being like in year 12, like you think, I couldn't even picture myself as a 17-year-old. Like that's just so far. But it's basically half your life at that point.
Right.
So you're just like,
but imagine like a year 7, right? They go from being, year 6, they go from being the really confident, like they're the kings of the school.
Yeah.
And then you go from you go to high school, you're in year 7. You're now the bottom of a new kind of system. Yeah. So you've gone from the top of a lower system and now you're the bottom of a higher system. And the way I view it, right, is that if you're a Diamond 1 player, like high Diamond player, you're kind of the top of a particular system. You're like now, and what happens, especially when you're in Diamond, you're probably higher than most of your friendship group. Right. And everyone says, oh yeah, you usually get an ego. It's like, oh, I'm Diamond 1, I'm Diamond 2. I'm better than usually all my friends. Like, you start to...
I'm really close to that next, because that's the thing. Same thing was because everyone's getting hyped up and it's really cool. It's like, I'm going to high school.
Yes. It's like, I'm going to get promoted.
You're close to it.
You're close to it, but you're not there yet. No. Right. So you're strutting along with all this confidence, right? And you're like, you think you're the king of the world. And like a lot of people, especially high Diamond players, they have an ego. They can develop a bit of an ego and they think they're the best. And, they are really good players, right? And then what happens, you get to Master. And now you actually, and we know this, like that is kind of deemed the high elo community. Master Plus is kind of the high elo community. You've now entered a different paradigm. You're in a different area. You're in a different school, essentially, right? And so now you're the bottom. You're the bottom of the barrel. If you're Master 0 LP, 50 LP, 100 LP, you're at the bottom of this very, very daunting system. Now, what happens psychologically is that now you've gone from being the top to the bottom. And now that confidence, it's like there's remnants of it. You still got like a little bit of an ego there and, you've got that little bit of confidence there. But what happens in the way the Master System matchmaking works is that you are matched in a wide variety of games. You're in games where you're the highest and you're versing diamonds. But then you'll be placed in the odd game where you're in like versing high GMs and maybe the odd challenger randomly in a morning queue and you get annihilated and you're like, oh, okay. That's different. That's not what I expected. And you get shit on. Like you as if like when you're versing a gold, like you toy with a gold player as a Diamond 1 player or a Master player, you're getting toyed by a 700 LP player, like literally tossed around like a rag doll, right? It's that big. The difference is that big. And what I've noticed is that this takes a toll on the curiosity factor and that time back to Connor's statement, why people lose that whole, that's a really cool opportunity to learn from people better than you, because you don't even feel like, a lot of the time as master players, you don't even feel like you're worthy. Like, it's so daunting, that gap between low master to challenger is so daunting. Like, think about it. The LP difference is like 800. 900 in some, just depending on the server.
That's going from Platinum 4 to Diamond 1 again.
Think about that. That's low plat or gold to Diamond 1.
Yeah.
The gap in skill is probably even bigger than that, right? And so that I feel like this takes a toll psychologically and mentally on a lot of master tier players. So they have two choices. They can say, screw it, I'm not even going to compete with that. I'm not even going to attempt to try and promote here, and kind of conveniently place myself in like the I'm better than everyone else mentality. Or there is that other mentality, which is, you know what, I'm going to have a crack. I'm going to be curious. I'm going to pit myself against these guys.
But then that's when you need to really break down the ego and get curious and figure things out.
That's correct. So there's this weird transition period of a master tier player, like psychologically, that I've noticed. So I can identify what sort of master tier player I'm working with. Are they in that phase where they're the best and then they haven't truly tackled their ego and broken it down and are ready to, and they're not, those players aren't ready to take that challenge yet. They're not ready to take on the gauntlet.
They're still in like grade 6 graduation phase versus
they're reminiscing
I've
on
started
that.
year 7 and I got my books and I got to figure out my locker code.
Yes.
And like I got to put on a blazer.
Yes, they're reminiscing on the past. They're reminiscing on those days where I am beating everyone, or like I'm master, I've made it. But you got to let go of that. To actually truly embark on that journey to become a challenger player, you got to let go of the past. You got to really just you're now at square one. You got to develop that student mindset, referring back to what Connor said, being just curious and grateful to verse better opponents and just learn and just be shit on and just enjoy that. But that is very hard to do. As we all know, going from school, I don't know how it works in America. I think there's like middle school and I don't know how it works. There's like 3, I think, in America.
I'm not even going to guess, Curtis.
But my point being, we've all been there where we're the younger kid in the new school and we know what that feels like, right? There's the odd person that is excited, but for the most part, we're all shitting ourselves and we're all very nervous and we're all like scared and we're intimidated and we're not ready. We don't feel ready to take on that journey. So that's just my little observation.
That's really interesting.
The psychology of master players.
I've used that analogy and I think you're spot on. I like it a lot. And something I haven't really thought about, but you're right. Some people haven't really wanted to start year 7.
Yeah. And so I think that the challenge, and so another analogy I've been using for Master Plus right now is this. I said, I view it as like this. 0 LP to 1,000 LP is 1,000 puzzles. Okay? You got to face and solve 1,000 puzzles. And so the 1,000 puzzles are basically, I in my mind, it's like 1,000 unique, complex, kind of tricky situations. If you can rock up to these 1,000 puzzles, figure out the solutions to these 1,000 puzzles, you make it. Like you actually will make it.
Okay.
But the problem is, it's not as simple as, oh, there's a puzzle, me solve it with a problem solving mindset, curious mindset, get the solution, move on, implement it. It's, oh, this one's hard. Oh yeah, my teammate that, my champ that, my meta that, it's all that gets in the way of solving that puzzle. So it's, yes, the difficulty of solving those puzzles, as well as the mental barrier and the noise surrounding the climb and the mental baggage and all that crap that gets in the way of solving those puzzles. Master Plus is a different beast. It really is a different beast.
I mean, again, you're going up to, you're pushing the top 0.000%. Like it's insane. It's very hard. It's funny that I mention, blazer. Americans don't even have uniforms.
Oh yeah, they don't have uniforms.
Yeah.
I think in some schools they do, in private schools in America.
Oh, do they really?
I think. I'm pretty sure, but for the most part it's a casual, right?
Europeans, I think, have some uniforms.
That's right.
I
In
know,
Australia, we all wear uniforms.
I know Italy did.
There is not a single school in Australia, right? Like I've never seen a school that
exist.
doesn't wear a uniform.
You know what as well? What I'd love to see in the comments, because we don't understand how the American schooling system works. Like break down the ages and then what it's called. Like, you know how they have those names like sophomore and
senior and
I don't know what they mean. I've never actually broken it down and seen.
Yeah, I have no idea.
So if there's someone that's experienced in the American edge, which I assume will be a lot of our audience,
yeah, give us a heads up.
Give us a heads up in the comment section.
So yeah, that's my observation. And again, this is probably not applying to the majority of our audience, but I think it's an interesting case study psychologically of how the brain can influence or the mind can influence the way you approach climbing and facing challenges. Because I'm sure there are many things going on in, again, below diamond as well, right?
Of course. Lots of other psychological
right.
factors. All right. Next thing that we have to cover, because we're going to get asked about this, obviously, is Riot Games have announced LP changes.
Okay.
And this is hot in the community.
Hot off the press.
Hot off the press, hot talking point. All right. So, this is the quote from Riot Medler. So they made a video talking about, changes again for the game, that sort of stuff. And he mentions, okay, one thing that we missed from the video, I figure might also be of interest coming in patch 13.4. I think you might be right about that one, Medler, beyond interest, is that we'll be increasing LP gains and losses from an average of 15 to an average of 22. Should get people to appropriate ranks faster. We're making the change based off feedback received and because we'll have 2 seasons in ranked this year instead of just 1 like we used to. So it doesn't seem appropriate to stick with the same things. And for some more information, so, when they say 15 plus and 22, that's basically saying, so currently, if you have like an account that's MMR's dead on, MMR. Is correct for that rank, like it's like Plat 2 but Platinum 2 MMR, you'll gain plus 15, minus 15. And if you have a complete spot on rank now, if you're Platinum 2 and you're Platinum 2 MMR, now it'll be plus 22, minus 22.
Right, okay.
Cool.
But it could go, you could have higher than that, obviously, if you have better MMR, or lower than that if you have worse MMR.
So someone had an example here. It's like, okay, so if my LP gain currently is, for example, 25 LP a win and 5 for a loss, that means that's a really,
really good MMR.
Really good MMR account. Then he said that would average out to 40 a win and 10 a loss.
Right.
Around that.
Yeah. Which, again, it's all relative, right?
So this is the thing we need to talk about because everyone's going to talk about this. All right, so this is where I'm going to go on this go. So we got to remember at the end of the day,
let's talk
guys.
about MMR. Let's talk about MMR. You want to talk about MMR?
No.
Okay.
Let me do my take first.
Okay, what's your take?
All right. I hate talking about
I do want to talk about MMR.
Okay, we can talk about MMR. So at the end of the day, guys, we still got to remember, people might be excited about this. It's like, yes, I'm going to be able to get my rank faster and stuff like that. Remember, guys, the system, it's a competition at the end of the day. And we like to not say that it's like, you're still against yourself, right? We still have that message.
Yes.
It's still you and you're against yourself. You're focused on yourself. But
yes.
At the end of the day, the ladder itself is all a gigantic competition in terms of there is, the higher skill level you go, you're going to be that rank. So let's say if tomorrow suddenly, let's say 5 years in the future, for example, currently Diamond 1 today is like Platinum 4 in 5 years, and we just speed that up and currently that. Like that's the level of skill of those players.
Right, you're talking skill level wise.
Wise. Then the ladder will again adjust to that, right? So it's like everyone loves to talk about like I'm a platinum player, I'm a diamond player, but that changes over the years, what that means, all that sort of stuff. Right. And this again, it's just gonna everyone's still gonna be where exactly they're gonna be. It's just gonna be maybe a little bit different in terms of maybe the top of the ladder is now like 2,000 LP, which is average, and then it's still maybe there's more Iron 4 players now, for example. They're sort of like it looks like they're expanding the ladder, right? Because there's higher LP and gains and losses. So yeah, I just want to get people to just remember like it just doesn't influence anything. Like basically it's just a thing that Riot's putting in to be like, okay, we're just gonna, because there's now 2 splits, we want people to sort of feel like they can get to their ranks faster. But again, that doesn't...
I think it does change a bit. I'm going to disagree with you here.
Okay.
Okay, I don't think it change. Okay, it won't change over the long run what rank you end up at, right? By much. Okay, let me caveat it, by much. Again, depending on the amount of games you're playing. But it does change the swings a lot. Okay, so hear me out on this one, right? So let's say you're, like I said, P2 player. And you know how we talk about maybe a champ can come in meta. Maybe you pick up a gimmick, right? Or let's say you get lucky. These are many things that can happen that can give you that boost. Before we would say, can sometimes be upwards of 200 LP. That's now changed a lot, right? That could be upwards of 300 LP now, potentially, if not even more.
Which would be like the difference between D2 and D1.
That's right. That could get, if you're P2, that could get you to D3, D2, potentially, a gimmick, right?
Yeah.
is my point. Now, that doesn't mean they are a D2 player, but it just means that the swings are going to be significantly bigger. So rather than we've got like maybe 100 LP swings now, plus minus 100 with your rank, it could be plus minus 200. So what I think is going to happen in the short term is that people are going to panic. Because if you get unlucky, you get an unlucky 3 block, you go lose 3 games, right? You're going down potentially minus
66,
potentially even 70 LP.
Yeah.
That's nearly an entire division. You're going to be, what the hell? I've now gone back with 70 LP. Now, what's that's going to do? That's going to cause an emotional response in someone. Potentially. Again, I'm just going to say this is an idea. Because we know people can get very mixed up with LP and very emotionally attached to LP. And then that could then influence their future games. Because they're saying, oh my God, I'm down minus 70 LP. I gotta win. Right? If I lose 2 more, I'm out of this division. Right? And so what I'm afraid of is that the people that are sensitive to LP changes, it has a high highs and very low lows. And this, for if you are an LP sensitive player, even though you may be thinking this in a positive, yes, I get to my rank faster, I would be, if anything, more cautious and being like, holy moly, if I lose 6 in a row, I've now gone down over a division, right? Like, you're losing a lot more LP. So this is, in my opinion, a warning sign. And I think we should be really kind of send this out as like a help to people, a bit of advice. If you are sensitive to LP, the no-look challenge and not looking at your LP is something you might really want to investigate.
Probably even more important now.
It's probably more important. That's what I think.
That's a good point.
So, yes, I don't think it changes anything to do with skill level at all. And in the long run, with a lot of games played, it won't really change your rank that much, but it will change the swings. Now, the other point here is that it could actually change the rank that you end at if you're not getting a lot of games. Right? It could. Because think about it. Let's say you're a player that doesn't really get a mass amount of games. We talk about how your rank usually, like, you kind of end up at the rank you're meant to be over a large amount of games. But again, if someone's not getting a lot of games in a season, in a split, this system, in a way, I think it actually helps them. Like, I think it actually helps them in a way because they don't need to get that mass amount of games in to get the rank that they want to get. So I think it's overall a huge positive for the community, but again, comes with dangers.
Yeah.
So yes, so I'm bracing myself in the Midland Academy right now for people going to come screaming at me if they have 206, 203 blocks. I'm ready for some fireworks.
So your concern is that because now that we're losing more, it's going to be more cause of effect of more explosions.
And let's talk about the flip side for a second. Let's say you get a client, because we see this all the time. They get really happy because they get a bunch of LP, right? They have 2-3-0 blocks and they think that that's the best. They've solved it. They've got it. Everything's clicked. They're killing it, right? We know that 2-3-0 blocks can be a shit ton of luck. Like 2-3-0 blocks doesn't tell us jack shit.
No.
It doesn't tell us anything, actually.
We need more sample size.
That's a tiny sample size, right? But if someone goes 6-0, think about that in terms of LP. You're going up over 1.5 divisions, right? People are going to get super excited. But we know what goes up must come down. And then, again, that swing, but going upwards, what happens? People anchor all the time to a rank. If they climb from D3 to D1, in their mind, a lot of people assume they're a D1 player. They got to D1. I made it to D1. And then we know that's...
Then you have this label and you have something that, you're
latched onto that.
This is what I was. So if I go down, I'm still that level.
I'm so far away now from that D1 that I got, that I thought I was at. Like, again, you have so much further to fall.
This could get sticky.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And now I think what will happen over the years, or even across like maybe the course of a year and a half, is that I think the swings will become the norm and like people will adapt to that. Like because we now understand that a swing of maybe 60, 70, 80 LP is kind of normal now. But, now in the future...
Like 120 might be
120, 150 LP might be more the norm. Yeah. And then we just become kind of numb to that because that's just
normalized
what happens.
To it,
Normalized to it. Because if I'm losing 200 LP now, alarm bells are kind of ringing. Something's going off here. But maybe now it doesn't necessarily mean the case. So that's kind of like what my thought was anyway.
If there was a counter with how much we just said LP in this podcast, we should be going to prison right now, guys. Based on the BBC
A lot of
universe.
LP.
That was ridiculous. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it's good to, it's definitely very something we'll pay attention to.
Right.
Yeah, again, my angle just wanted to be about, you know, at the end of the day, you have to build the skills to be better than someone else still. I mean, again, obviously we said that's not what you should be focused on, but the system always ends up that way, you know?
In a way, it kind of is a competition, right? Because it's all relative in terms of like, yeah, you're trying to get in the top player base, right? Percentages is all in percentages. Like the ranks are based off percentages of the player base, but you need to, it's better to treat it as if it isn't. Right, even though it theoretically is, you should pretend that it's not, and that it is versus you and yourself, because it kind of is versus you and yourself.
It is.
It's both.
It is, and that's what this podcast is about. It is.
That's
about
right.
that. But again, it's still about realizing that, you know, the system is one gigantic competition. Right. If we all teleported ourselves back to season 3 and had season 3 skill level right now, then the ladder, you know, the skill level of a diamond player would be completely different.
That's right.
Right. All right, so do you want to have that conversation at Marcus? What did you want to talk about with that?
I was going to, but
I just talked about too much. I think we got to
get out of that.
We got to
that's a red zone.
We got to spread it out. Yeah. It's sort of like you know, I just recently watched the Harry Potters, right? Have you seen all the Harry Potters?
Yeah.
Do you know the one with like the Horcrux where like they have it around their neck, and then because the evil's like around them, they start getting like we've just had like a lot of evil, you know?
Right,
like,
right. We've got to take it off.
We got to take it off.
Yeah.
You gotta,
get it off us.
Got to take it off.
Too much LP.
It was like the necklace, the necklace Horcrux. All right, my next topic here, Curtis.
Wait, is that stolen? Is that stolen from the Lord of the Rings?
What?
That concept?
Oh, the concept of like you're being around, or like
because like, you know, Frodo has the ring,
yeah,
and like you like wears him down, and he like gets all messed up.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. Yeah, that's the analogy as well.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Just stolen?
Well, it's not a huge part of it. That's a huge part of Lord of the Rings. I guess so. I guess you can say it's stolen. But yeah, that's probably a better one. We had the ring for way too long. If you're Lord of the Rings fans,
Frodo spread it around.
Yeah. All right. So my next topic here, if I get up, is a theme that we talk about, Curtis, is about focus. And it sort of goes into like a question. I wouldn't say it's like a bad question, but, you know, just reframing like our mindset a bit more. So basically here, this is one of my SoloQ members. He's asking about champion pool, and he said, okay, I have a champion pool of 3, he's platinum. And he says, you know, you guys talk about, you know, you don't want to have more than 3. But he said, you know, what happens if these champs are getting banned and picked quite often? You know, is it wrong to learn another champion, to have a 4th champion in that pool? Because he had a game a few days ago where he's an Eve player, Eve was banned, and then Sylas and Dino was picked, so he had no champs left in his pool, right? Mm-hmm. And this question came from that one situation. So going back to guys like focus and think about long-term journey, what I find that people, where their questions come for league, it sort of comes back to the whole problem solve a mid game that's like just so hard that we shouldn't even be putting our attention to. It's like, this is a 1 in like 50 or 1 in 100 game. It doesn't happen that often. That's the reality. I don't think I've ever really seen someone with a champion pool of 3.
Yeah, if you have a champion pool of 3, yeah.
It's not gonna happen enough to warrant us putting focus and energy to now being like, okay, I got to learn another 4th champion in our pool. And it's sort of just going into the bigger message. It's like, guys, we're about refinement and focus. Like, we have to really, don't underestimate how powerful humans like focus can be, and like refining one like certain area of anything. Like, you know, people want to be like what's the jack of all trades, master of none. You know, I see that a lot in the league community, especially with champion builds. I find all the time, like, let's say they play a specific champion and they try and adapt the builds for every game, right? Versus just accepting, I'm just going to lose this. I'm going to likely lose this game because, yeah, I'm playing an assassin champion to a heavy tank team. I didn't get an elite early. Like, I'm not going to yes, adapting your build is a part of champ mastery, but I feel like people put too much energy and focus into it, which is hurting them in the long run.
So, okay. So to recap that one, your point is that you're concerned that there are people or players out there that,
if I summarize it, they ask questions and they try and find solutions to every problem.
Okay, so it's not about the like too much focus on champ mastery. It's more so bigger picture. They're wanting to find a solution to minor details when in reality there's still big things that need to be addressed.
That's a good summary.
You know, I kind of feel like that's our responsibility. You know, I kind of feel like. Okay, so again, Nathan, let's really empathize for a second, because I think it's very easy for us to be very delusional and kind of. We're edge cases, Nathan. Me and you. We are outliers in the grand scheme.
We spend all our time thinking about studying about the game.
It's a full-time job. It's the coach League of Legends, Nathan.
So we are aware. It's so obvious to us why you should refine.
That's my point, right? Think about it, Nathan. We've been around a League of Legends basically full-time for many
7, 8 years.
7, 8 years, right? Basically, you know, and like hardcore full-time though for like the last 6 years, right? Now. We are hardcore outliers. A lot of the time, Nathan, we need to be extremely careful about imposing our experiences onto our clients. So I'm going to actually empathize with him because, okay, I want to go back to that initial example that you showed me, that screenshot of that Kindred player, right? When we look at that, you know, we don't even look at items. We don't look at runes. We don't look at items. We don't look at that. Why? Because we know, right, that the underlying decision-making of that Kindred in terms of the quality of the ganks, the quality of the win con assessment, the quality of just the processing of information on wave states, objectives, far outweighs that stuff. But why? Because we have done that and we have felt that and we have developed that skill. We know what the end result, we know what what's that quote? Like the fruit of
our labor.
Yeah. Is that what it's called? The fruit of our labor or something like that?
Reaping the rewards.
Yeah. We know what the end feels like. Not just looks like. We know what the end feels like. You know what it's like to play fundamental League of Legends as a jungler, make fundamental good quality decisions, play off wave states, play around win cons, and in your mind, you're not playing Vi a lot of the time. You actually said this in your Rek'Sai guide. You taught jungle through Rek'Sai. You didn't necessarily teach Rek'Sai. You taught the game, right? Ganking fundamentals, right? What a good gank and a bad gank is through Rek'Sai. When you're playing League of Legends now, sure, you're doing it through the lens of your champ that you're playing, but you're just really playing League of Legends. You're looking at the game through these very basic concepts and tying it always back to underlying variables. That is not normal. Okay. That is the equivalent of the end game content of World of Warcraft dungeon that is for elite dungeoners that have completed everything and are looking at, you know, it's like, again, maybe even in chess when you get an elite grandmaster and they look at a chessboard and they can instantly they're not even looking at the pieces. They're looking at the patterns and they're filtering out all this information that's unnecessary and getting straight to the point. That's why they're that good, right? Because they can filter out all the information. What we're doing is the same thing. You're filtering out all that information. So this question for you, it's not even the realm of, it's like this person is making basic gank mistakes. They don't know how to read lane states. They don't know how to think about win cons. Your 1 in 50 game where you got triple banned is so insignificant in terms of, that's not even remotely part of what makes a diamond, but only you know that. And it's our job to educate the audience through SoloQ, the MLA, the BBC, that there is this light at the end of the tunnel. There is this, we're selling a dream, really. We're selling this hope that if you tick all these boxes, you'll become...
have a process.
You'll become a very good player and you'll have a lot of fun with the game. Really what we're doing here is we're selling this idea of what happens when you follow this process and you tick all these boxes. And only the people that have made the other side, again, tying back to the start where we said when someone feels the fundamentals and they have that great first 8 minutes, until they felt it, it really is just a dream.
It is because they haven't experienced that before.
They haven't experienced it. We're selling that opportunity and we're just salesmen of this idea of how to play League of Legends. So I empathize with him. And I think that, yes, it can, for us, it's very easy for us to get frustrated when we see these questions. But I kind of empathize because it's just it makes sense.
It does.
It really does make sense.
Because we are by nature, we love, especially certain type of people, just solving problems. Okay, if I find the solution to this, that's very, we
just want to solve the problem that's in front of our face.
Right now. That's right. A very good, beautiful.
We can't think we don't know what we don't know.
No.
He doesn't know what it's like to play beautiful League of Legends yet. Right? He's on that journey. So I think this is a wake-up call for us, right? I think it's a great reminder that we can be very detached from what the average person's journey can be like. And we got to hold ourselves to a high level and be accountable and make sure that we, really try and empathize with these clients, that they're not there yet. And we need to understand, it's our job to gauge where in that journey they are. And I found myself doing that so much. Like, I think I've got better at it over the years, but still to this day, I'll be like, what?
You have to catch yourself.
You got to catch yourself.
You do.
Like, you really do. And I'll be honest, like, we only have so much patience. Like, if you've told that guy, right, 10 times the same message and it's still going on, then obviously, you're probably not going to have any more patience. Your patience is gone. But if it's a new player and you haven't,
Here's a new SoloQ member.
Right. And I found myself losing patience with new new Mid-Lane Academy members sometimes as well. But it's just got to get better at it,
Yep.
So I think that's our responsibility. And that actually should motivate us, right? When we see these questions, like, fuck me, there's a lot here that needs to be done.
Yeah. I need to make like a better resource or something like that. Like,
That's right.
I've got to really push this because
there is so much here to teach.
I haven't done a good enough job of making sure this is like,
it's our fault.
Ticked off.
That's right. It's our fault at the end of the day. Yeah. So kind of flowing on from this, I got a question about it was something along the lines of like, how do you bounce back from getting punched in the face in a game, right? You have a plan, something doesn't go your way.
Chaos. Pure
right?
chaos.
Yeah. And we kind of went into the weeds here, and I feel like this is a weakness of mine that I want to talk about, and something that I got really great advice from someone in the Mid-Lane Academy, really good advice, and I kind of want to share that with people. So currently with where I'm at, because I'm not a perfect player, and I'm not even close. There's so much that I need to work on. And one of the things that I found myself with is that, like, if the mistake that I make in my mind, like, makes sense, it's like, oh, yeah, like, yeah, that was dumb, right? Like, they had prio. I didn't ward and lean. I missed that support roam. Like, if it's something that just makes sense to me, I don't really get that. I'm able to refresh very quickly. Just calibrate. What do I do? What's my role? What's the win con? Give next objective. Like, I go into this hibernation mode where I just give shit. Like, I have my own way of dealing with it, and I'm very good at that. But then there are mistakes that, like, I have this weird defense response where it's like I call it like a bullshit. Like, I said, this is bullshit. Like, it's like a bullshit mistake where it's like delusional. Like, it's like an example of this might be like I played Syndra versus Aurelia versus he's in the SoloQ.
Oh, Jacob.
Yeah, and like
He plays an Eve main.
yeah, and he played Aurelia mid into my Syndra, and like I had the wave in the perfect position, and like I saw exactly what he was gonna do, and I pressed my E as Syndra, and like the interaction between the Aurelia Q and my E was like really weird, and he got on top of me somehow before the E like went off, so he was like on my character, so he didn't get pushed back.
Yeah.
And then I died, and I was like I didn't understand. Like I couldn't consolidate that learning. I didn't understand how that micro interaction worked, and it left me really frustrated. Like, that's just a bullshit mistake. That's what in my mind. That's what I said. That's just bullshit.
Because it was so obvious. You saw it come in,
No,
and then
it was obvious, but like I didn't get the interaction.
Yeah.
Like I genuinely, because when I have a mistake that I get, it makes sense. Like, I know why that happened in the way it worked. I'm able to kind of move on very quickly. But then this mistake, I didn't understand how that was possible. I thought, like, there's no way that she wouldn't get knocked by my E there. And in my mind, like, it's like a defense response. It's like, that's just a bullshit mistake. And I can't
like the game's bugged or something.
Yeah, like it's like some weird, like, I don't know what it is, right?
I think that's normal. I think that's, yeah.
Well, let me finish my point here, though, because
go on.
So basically, it took me literally, I would say 3 minutes in the game to mentally get over that. Like, I actually couldn't be present.
Because you were trying to think about how did that work.
I don't know. I think I was just angry. I couldn't let it go.
Yeah,
like I couldn't let it go. Yep. And what happened was like I ended up getting my shit together and we won the game. And then after I was like talking about it, and one of the clients said he heard it, I think, and he said, Curtis, I don't think it's good to even have that in the realm of possibility in your wheelhouse. Like, it shouldn't, like, it's good to that. So you've got these two categories of mistakes. You've got the mistakes that you can kind of like conceptualize, and then you've got these weird, like, bullshit mistakes that you like let tilt you. He's like, it shouldn't even, it's like not good to even have the possibility of there being a bullshit mistake. Like everything should be in that same category. It's a mistake. It happened. Move on. And the fact that I've let that exist.
You have an extra category.
It's like how this category conveniently like labels these things that I just don't understand. It's not bullshit at all. I looked at it in the review straight after. I'm like, oh yeah, like the SoloQ puts them behind me and then I press E and then it doesn't push it. I'm like, right? But like, there's not bullshit at all, right? It's just me coping. It's like copium. But he's like, yeah, if you actually had this mechanic or this toolkit where it's like, well, every mistake is the same. Every mistake is like you did something wrong or there's something there that there is to learn. And that was your default response. There wouldn't even be, you wouldn't have those games where you checked out for 3 minutes. And it really got me thinking, it's true. Like it shouldn't actually, it serves no purpose in my wheelhouse, right? Like I shouldn't have that. And I've had that for a long time where these weird, like one in every 25 games where there's that one bullshit mistake in my mind that I call it bullshit that probably loses me every one of those games. So, it's just good to hear that perspective. And I think, it forced me to reflect and why I have that. And even though, yeah, sure, it makes sense that I couldn't like figure it out, but that's not acceptable. It's still pathetic, right?
Yeah.
And just hold it again, trying to remind myself to hold myself to a high standard and not let these things creep into my gameplay. Because when you let them creep in, other things can creep in too. Because
it like opens the cracks.
It opens that crack. That's right. Because if there's one bullshit mistake, that's dangerous.
You're in that copium mode, right?
I'm in that copium mode. And like, what else is bullshit? Like, is the matchmaking bullshit? Is it bullshit, Like, it's dangerous. Like, it shouldn't be there. That's my main point. Like, it opens that crack. I want to be a solid brick wall and like, I'm impenetrable and that I have this... Like, that's the thing I want to strive to in a way, right?
Even though not impenetrable might be too theoretical, just able to recover really quickly and identify these things.
Yeah, of course I'm going to get emotional, but shut it down. Like, we all have the emotions, but the ability to shut it down like I have my other mistakes. I shut down those other mistakes. But yeah, just thought that was an interesting...
No, it's good. Thing. That's a very interesting learning. I guess you always having interactions all the time. I can't really remember the last time something I didn't understand for interaction. Like Aurelia jumps on me, I'm Rek'Sai, just instant knockcover. I don't even do anything.
There's no like, you haven't had many interactions that you didn't understand.
No, like it's just the nature of jungling. We're just not fighting all the time. All right, so this is we always have got a new segment about exploring Reddit, like Summoner School specifically. Here's a top post, Curtis, called How do I ever deal with Vladimir? This had 355 upvotes and 70 comments. He goes on to say, I honestly do not know how to approach this champion. One of the best scaling champs in the game, so I have to win lane, out-sustains my poke before first back, 100 to 0 tower dives me before mythic, and it's not even close. I've almost never won lane versus a decent Vladimir. People say to abuse the window when his pull is down, but he just plays back for 20 seconds. If I do end up harassing him in those 20 seconds, enemy jungler will be in my lane. I don't know. I don't want this to sound like a rant post, but I really need help against this. I play a variety of champs mid, and I really want tips for different classes. Please don't just say play X champion, he does well into Vladimir. I know good picks into Vlad, but sometimes that's not an option. So I sort of picked this, Curtis, because I want to enter this from like a big picture.
Okay.
Specifically scaling champs in League of Legends. I guess this is why people really focus on the mid game as well, because that's like a pretty big part of the game. It's much more than the early game, isn't it? So if you're against like a scaling like a Vlad champion that's for like 20 minutes just getting destroyed, it's very easy to just be like, okay, this champ's just like the best champ in the game. How do I deal with it? What do you think about this, guys?
I would prefer to tackle this question in a much different way, if that's okay.
Okay, sure.
I would rather get granular and ramp up until we get into the big picture.
Okay, so we'll start with that.
Yeah.
I'll start with the big picture.
So let's go the other way around here. So Vlad is a champion that is not... Okay, remember at the start of this episode, we're talking about fundamentals, okay? We're talking about wave management as a laner. Resets, warding, leaning, all the fundamentals of mid lane, right? Vladimir is a very, very easy champion to punish when you have good fundamentals. And I'll explain why. Vladimir has some of the worst wave clear in the game. Right? He has no gank setup. He has low range. So basically most mid champions in the game, like 95% of them, can just tempo reset whenever they want into a Vladimir. And you can never die. If you are good if you understand the fundamentals of the game as a laner, you will never have problem into Vladimir, period. Right? Vladimir is what I call kind of like the noob stomper. I don't want to, it's a very general statement because he can be good in high elo as well, as proven by Elite 500, but he is a problematic champion for many lower elo players because of that very reason. He punishes poor fundamentals, period. Right? I guarantee you this player does not have good fundamentals, doesn't really know how to manage waves, doesn't know how to get a good quality reset, and is playing into Vlad's game because Vlad will sit there, will elongate the lane phase, and will out-sustain you, and the longer you stay in the lane versus Vladimir, the worse it is. But what you can do, basically, as any champion, I'll let myself get shoved in, play off the bounce, 2-stack into a tempo reset, come back with an item advantage because they don't have enough wave clear to get the wave in. I freeze. I have the item advantage. I take good trades. We heavy trade, slow build again, reset, just rinse, repeat again and again and again. Doesn't matter what the hell I'm playing. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that it's a massive I actually don't give a shit about Vlad scaling. Right? My mindset when using Vlad, so I'm playing any control mage. I'm playing Victor, I'm playing Syndra, playing any of these champs. Vlad is an incredibly linear champion that is incredibly flash reliant. When Vlad does not have flash, right, he'll get that one kill on flash, right? A lot of the time. But after that, he's useless. He actually can't utilize his lead that well at all. And what I've actually found, my philosophy, I'm like, yes, great. If you can't counter him, whatever. So take a step back. There are 3 ways to navigate versing Vlad. You play a direct counter like a Cassio, and then you post like Lost Chapter. You can like run him down the lane. He can't play the game. Number 2, you play something with high wave clear, shove and roam around the map and explode the game. Play Galio, right? There's those sorts of champs. Or let's say your champ doesn't do that well, right? You just want to scale alongside it. So you play in Syndra, right? I guarantee you, if you take good resets, you farm well, you play off your item spikes, you tether, you do all the correct things, even buy an early null magic mantle if you need to survive the one shot, you can completely nullify the Vlad. And what happens, Vlad has huge power troughs, massive power troughs. Like he's super item dependent and he's a lot of gold. So I found in my games that I love scaling alongside of Vlad because as long as I see him coming, I time his flash, I CC him from a distance. I keep my range. I maybe get a little bit of MR so I don't get literally 100 to 0'd. You completely nullify the champion. And people just overestimated scaling ability. Sure, if it gets that wombo combo flank onto 5 people at 2 items, yeah, he's going to one-shot your whole team. But it's so easy to prevent that as basically any champ of the game by just keeping vision on him, pinging him, keeping him at a distance, CCing him. There's like so many ways to deal with it. So I've just listed 10 different ways you can do with Vlad. So my point being is that yes, Vlad is a problem if you don't have fundamentals, but there's so many weaknesses with that champion. So that's what I want to start. So I want to get that context out there for people.
This is why we have the mid lane expert right here, Curtis. I could not answer that way, not even close. I know that the champ has weaknesses. I couldn't tell you it like that. Yeah.
So they're the main weaknesses, right? And then
for example, as a jungler, I love fighting in river against Vlad early.
Yes,
I just win those fights.
You will never lose a mid 2v2 against a Vlad. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I love versus Vlad. I never lose to Vlad. So big picture, right? You're coming at this from a point of what was the angle you were coming at?
The angle that I was coming again from is that people over dramatize, scaling champs specifically because they're spending so much time getting destroyed by them in the game. It feels like there's no counterplay.
Right. Yeah.
But we're not breaking down, getting into the details.
Why are they in that position is what your point is. Why is Vlad getting to the point where he's scaling? And you're spot on. And that, again, ties back to the first 8 minutes and the fundamentals of the game, right?
That's right.
Like, this is what I said. That actually ties into it perfectly, right? Because it's like, if you have good fundamentals, Vlad doesn't get to that point very easily and he's easily shut down. That's right. And I guarantee you, this is the crazy thing, what I've actually learned, right? If you struggle versus a champ like Vlad, play the champion. Literally play it. And at some point in your journey of playing the champion, you will verse someone who knows what they're doing. And you're like, holy moly, I feel like a minion.
I'm never playing this champ again.
Yeah, exactly. And then they see the weaknesses. It's not until you play it yourself and because trust me, you play that champion that you think is OP. it gives you a reality check.
You find it out pretty quick. You had a really good story you've actually mentioned on the podcast before about one of your Midland Academy members. He had a mental block versus a Carly, and then he played it.
Right. Yeah. Then he played it. Yeah. My biggest advice a lot of the time when you play, there's two pieces of advice I give is play it or literally 1v1 it, like drill 1v1s. Both of those things work every time. But you just got to put in the effort. Right, you got to put in the effort. But like, again, I want to empathize with this guy. Again, the fundamentals, it's not common knowledge yet.
No,
like it will be, but it's just not yet.
The common knowledge, but I guess the importance of it,
the significance of it, like that. He might know that knowledge, but he doesn't understand how it ties together,
or he knows all this stuff, but he's not able to execute it consistently enough to see the long-term benefits and how it actually is going to be able to, over the long run, beat more Vlad players and lose.
Yeah. And I think that, that's why, again, I think for me, the more I've played the game, the more I dislike scaling just as an idea. Like it's actually what's happened in my league journey. The more I've understood the game, the more I don't feel like I was the opposite. I started as the scaling player.
As a jungler as well. Right? Yeah.
And then you kind of learn the game more and you're like, wow, like I don't need to play this way. While we're on this topic, I think it's really important. I want to address this, right? Nemesis as a player. I get asked a lot about Nemesis as a player. Nemesis is a very good player mechanically, incredibly good mechanically. One of probably the best Western players mechanically, right? He's proven to be pretty high elo in Korea and his time there in EU as well. I think he's like top 10 or top 5 in EU.
And he hit rank 1, I think.
He hit rank 1 in EU. He's a beast, right? In SoloQ. Nemesis has a very unique way of playing the game. He is the definition of like, he knows his identity. He scales. He's all about scaling. And he's Chample. He's played Kale. Right, he played like Kassadin, Syndra, like Yone. He's like the scaling guy, right? You already know what you're going to get when you play a game with Nemesis. He's going to play scaling, he's going to farm 10 CS per minute, and he's going to play the skirmishes flawlessly. That is how he wins, right? Now, his style of playing proves that, yes, playing the scaling style can work. But the huge caveat here that needs to be highlighted is that that way of playing the game is extremely difficult. You got to be a very, very, very good player to play like that. Because in those scaling games, right, the way it works, I've watched his gameplay. It's like if he goes to that fight where he's 10 CS a minute, everyone's died on his team. Like his side lanes have got roamed on. Like he's always at a disadvantage most of the time. Not always, most of the time. He has to play those skirmishes flawlessly. He has to make up the difference every time. Now, sure, if you play those skirmishes well, you can make up the difference, and then you're a beast heading into mid to late game. But if you mess up once, you die to one gank that you shouldn't, you mess up mechanically in that one dragon fight, you compensate that one time, it's over so fast. And so my point here is,
so what are the questions people ask? They want to go as champ.
Well, they say, Curtis, you talk a lot about playing, First Strike Syndra's trash, and you should be playing for the win cons and team, and you say that champs like Kale and stuff are just bad, and like. And
then watch Nemesis stream, and it just looks OP. It's 1v9, it looks super easy.
And then and I'm like, dude, this is really just not replicable for 99.99999% of players. To the point where most people around the world, if you look at other high elo players, don't even play like that. He's one of the most unique, if not the most unique, high elo mid laner in the world. No, I think maybe Chovy plays quite similar, but again, a mechanically flawless player. But they're like outliers. Most high elo players on most servers do not play like that.
So people get tricked easily thinking that that's like replicable for their skill level in like the short term.
That's right. In other elo brackets as well. Like I'm like, I wouldn't even recommend that for the average grandmaster player. Like it's just not good enough. You make one mistake, the game is over. And that takes a toll mentally. But Nemesis he's in a whole different ball game. Like he doesn't even think like that. Like he's so confident in his ability. But the one benefit of that style, though, is that if you have two winning sides, you'll win that game every single time. Like, if you have a competent side lane, you'll win that game every single time.
His wins are just quick, really quick.
Those wins are really quick. But, like, the games that, like, are on the knife's edge, like, they're way harder than usual.
It all comes down to him.
So, again, that's a great example of, again, there are styles in the game, and you can make it work, but you better understand the consequences or understand the contract that you sign by playing like that.
The great thing about League of Legends, and going back to the Vlad thing and Nemesis playstyle, everything has strengths and weaknesses. I play lots of early game junglers. I'm not going to be carrying team fights in mid to late. I can do my job, but I need my teammates to be doing damage.
That's right.
But again, that's my job, and if I screw that up, I lose the game.
Yeah, and his job every time is to be the 1v9 carry. Yeah. He wants to be the 1v9 carry. It's all on him, all or nothing. And he thrives under that. He likes that. That's what he enjoys about the game. And there's nothing wrong with that. But caution, just don't try to replicate it. Or at least understand what you're getting into if you are going to try and replicate it.
All right, we'll jump into Mailbag.
Yep.
Away we go. Welcome back for Nathan's Mailbag. Jingle, jingle, jingle song. Alrighty then. Our first question comes from Dawid. I think it's Dawid or David. Title of this email is New Player Experience. Reflection upon meeting a Noobie. Hey, Curtis and Nathan. Obligatory, I think that's how you pronounce it. Long time watcher, first time writer. Quick background. Played since 2011, EUS Masters for last 3 seasons with 450 peak. Usually decaying before season end since I have other commitments. Working, 31 years old. Some experience in coaching people in my OTP, one trick, with some success, people getting the rank they desired or being generally satisfied with concepts, knowledge, and advice philosophy I offered. So a fellow coach, Halo player, EUS. Sometimes when I'm listening to the podcast or talking over the internet, I will jump into co-op versus AI mode just to chill and relax. Today, one of the players got upset, pointing out that good players in bot games destroy the experience and make it unable to learn anything about the game. Initially, I just thought that this person is either joking or trying to get reaction for fun, but when I told them that it's not a mode that will let them learn the game, for many reasons like the absence of a jungler being one, and that they shouldn't get upset because that's just the nature of it, I paused for a moment. Let's assume it is in fact a new player. Where will they go? Of course, they will think co-op mode is the place to learn. They said that they don't have friends in the game, so I got immediately curious. How does one even start their journey with League in 2023? I asked that person if they could give me a chance to chat to them, and that it doesn't have to be voice. I added them after the game, and if nothing else, I would at least give someone frustrated a human experience and someone to vent to. So this guy is helping a new player. This guy sounds like a genuine new player he's found in the co-op versus bots. So this is when you have 4 other players that are just actual players, and then you're versing 5 bots. What followed was a quick conversation where not only I have realized how detached I was with the level of competence of starting player, I myself started the game after already playing old Dota mod and having the benefit of knowledge from a MOBA, but also how badly designed the system is. If a beginner player does not even know how to mute verbally abusive people, apparently no tutorial even explains that part to you, then how are we expecting anyone but curious kids or people with friends who already play to ever get into it? If we don't want these players, then at least I'd be curious. Why? Why is Riot making rich World of Runeterra and creating hits like Arcane, yet unwilling to accommodate in the slightest to a person who could be both their client but also a valuable part of the community? I know you guys praise Riot, rightfully so, for many of their decisions, but I'm curious to hear your opinions on this one. I touched some screenshots of the post-game conversation so you can see how it went. There are other interesting topics related to coaching and SoloQ, some narratives that he had. And then he goes on to say, this one just made me write all this because I felt frustrated on behalf of someone I don't even know, a random new player who, because of Riot's incompetence, might miss on both fun and challenge that League of Legends has to offer. Or maybe I have just felt guilty for being called out for stomping some AI, who knows. And what he did is, I'll put the screenshots up, and he was very curious. He asked him on League, what's his gaming background and stuff. If you can take my phone and quickly read these. I've already read them a little bit.
Okay. What do you enjoy about the game? What made you start playing? How long ago was it? Few weeks. I like the game, but not sure if it's for me since I can't get good enough. Then he asked, what's your previous gaming experience? Do you mean other games? Yes. Minecraft, Serious Sam, Witcher. So then he replies, all right, so mostly single player co-op games. Is this your first PvP game? Mostly. And the guy replies, yes, mostly. I'm just not good with accepting curses. And then the guy says, as in vulgar language. The other guy says, yeah. Wow. Okay. I just want to skim. Actually, it doesn't know how to mute. Goes on to say, I just want to try more champions.
There's 2 other screenshots after that if you want to.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking here quickly. Yeah, so I mean, maybe you can put those screenshots up.
Yeah, I'll put all the screenshots up
on the screen for people.
But it's really cool. Like you ask like all the questions we would ask.
Yeah.
Like, it's like doing like market research in a way.
Yeah, to riff off this though,
It's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he raises a really good point. We love Riot and we think Riot does a lot of great things. But I have to totally agree with you. I think Riot have done a shocking job with the entire introduction to the game. We have actually mentioned this on a previous episode talking about the SoloQ contract where, when someone comes into the game, there should be a very sophisticated tutorial explaining a lot about the game. And there should be like a thing that basically tells you what to expect, what's going to happen, kind of like a SoloQ contract-esque type thing. But there's really nothing. You're kind of shoved in the deep end. You know nothing about the game. The tutorials are terrible. And you're really left to fend for yourself. And you're right. If you don't have friends who already have played the game, and I can empathize because I didn't come from a MOBA background. I didn't have anyone that really played the game. Actually, no one. Actually, literally no one who played the game at the time when I played. So my dad had never played a MOBA. My brother had never played a MOBA. I knew no one in my vicinity had played a MOBA. So I had to, and there was no tutorials at that time. I literally just played, and that's why I played bots for a year, right?
Yeah.
Because I literally had to look at the keyboard. So and I think he raises a really good point. The only reason I kept playing, I actually don't know why I kept playing.
Why did you keep
I
playing?
didn't even really have fun.
I was so confused when I heard you play League because I didn't know you played League
I
for a year.
genuinely was just bored because I had no other game to play.
It was just like one of those periods of like your life where like there's no new releases or like there's nothing game.
I think what happened, I got sick of Counter-Strike, sick of Guild Wars. I just wanted to refresh something else.
Yeah, interesting.
And then I just kind of found this on a browser, and I genuinely couldn't tell you why I kept playing. And I remember this. I had this one memory where I went out. I had my computer in my room, and then I went to my dad. I said, "I'm playing this game. Check out this game." And then my dad's like, "This looks terrible.
This is ridiculous.
It looks shocking." And I'm like, "Oh, it's kind of fun." And but I didn't really have that. I don't have actually great positive memories. Like with the beginning stages of the game, I didn't really have that. I feel like I just did it because I had nothing else to do. So I think he raises a lot of good points, and I have to agree with you. It doesn't really even make sense from a financial perspective, does it? Because I don't think it would take that many resources from Riot to create a pretty solid introduction to the game and a tutorial. And then think about it. Those are your future clients who are going to buy skins and introduce the game to their friends, and kind of it's like a whole new.
And you've got an aging player base, already now.
And the gap is only getting bigger, right?
It would be. It's a very good point. I haven't thought about this.
Really
Riot should really get down and figure this out.
They are very behind on this.
Yeah,
like, this should be one of the.
Because guess what? The first thing I bet you this guy has heard going into League, it's like a super toxic game.
That's right.
Imagine then it's like, okay, like let's see, and then the first time that sounds like a huge part of what he's typing a lot here. It's like I just can't believe just how toxic everyone is, and like these players are ruining my experience and stuff like that. That's his first initial reaction. That person's not going to commit to the game.
No. Did you think about that when you came into League?
I had Bryce and for all my friends and stuff.
But then did they tell you the game was toxic?
No, the game.
I don't think it was that toxic back then, was it? Right.
Because no one knew what they were doing.
Oh yeah, the new players nowadays fascinate me. Right?
They do, don't they?
They really, really fascinate me.
So this guy came from like Minecraft and that sort of stuff. Did he say how old he was?
No, I don't think he did. But yeah. I mean, look, I think maybe what we can do, right? Our in terms of actionable things, Nathan, maybe we can at some point put together something
like the ultimate tutorial,
and send this to Froxon and to tell him to raise it in Riot.
Okay, yeah, we could
do that.
Yep.
Right, we have contacts in Riot now, so what we can maybe do is put together what would we want to see. And maybe we get feedback from you guys, based off what we see here, and based off maybe your experiences with beginners. What would you want to see in a tutorial, or what should it look like? And if we can maybe whip up something, copy and paste things we like into a document and just raise it, right? Get it in the realm of possibility. Maybe he can flag it, Foxon can flag it to someone else, and then who knows, maybe it starts to change series of events. But I think this is a big problem.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. What was I
Maybe
gonna say?
so. Again, the only thing I can think of right now is that maybe Riot's perspective right now is that the game is so big, there actually aren't many people who haven't played the game before.
They haven't tried it, yeah.
That's right.
Using
So
the
they're
data.
probably thinking that like they've probably looked at the data and are like, okay, there are not many new players, like new that aren't playing with friends from the get-go. And so they've probably thought, okay, we can probably bypass this for now, given that most people have a friend that are going to guide them through that process anyway. And then that's it. Because the game is so big now, and every man and their dog is playing the game, or at least has played the game, or knows someone that plays the game. I'm assuming maybe that's their reasoning. But again, I don't know. I still think it's unacceptable regardless, either way.
Because with our programs, with my SoloQ Academy, our below gold coaching, and these still aren't genuine new players.
No.
They're
You had to have played at least the game for a year.
Yeah.
Like they're all level 30 plus.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, our programs are open to like people below 30 though.
Yeah, that's right.
But they haven't joined, which
No.
is interesting because they obviously aren't watching this podcast or even getting to that point. You know?
Yeah, they wouldn't even get to that point, I think. Yeah.
They're not down the rabbit hole of league content.
No.
So
Yeah,
it's
but
again
I
a
feel
whole
like
different.
It's kind of good though. I truly think that I don't think someone like that who's below level 30 needs to join our program.
Yeah, I go just getting into
Like
the
I
game.
feel like they really just need to play.
Yeah.
Like those players. Figure out what everything
So
does.
again, even that's even a separate universe to us as well. Just as he noticed just how detached he was from like the absolute new player experience.
Yeah.
So that's really awesome. Thanks for sharing
Yeah,
that.
very interesting story.
All right, next question here. Going back to our more experienced viewers. Coming back to my old one trick. Hey, Nathan and Curtis. I'm a gold player and I've been trying to hit plat after not playing ranked seriously for a while. I was a Sylas one trick. I absolutely loved the champ and was excited to play him no matter what. I have to note that I wasn't only playing Sylas but a bunch of random champs. Unfortunately, I dropped Sylas in favor for two tricking Vlad and Akshan, since I felt like my Sylas is just not good enough because I've played him in too many normals with my lower rated friends and basically smurfed most games. This made me develop a bunch of bad habits and made me worse on the champ overall. How do I build back my confidence with the champ and destroy the bad habits that I've accumulated over the years playing Sylas? Thank you guys. Love the show. Keep it up.
It's a tricky one. I'll be honest. It is a very tricky one. I would suggest being incredibly detail oriented in your reviews. Like try and break it down to key reference points and key concepts. So like okay, Sylas. This is why Sylas is a very, 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 very hard champion because of his lack of clear reference points. Right, a reference point meaning. Kind of like things that like boxes that the champion wants to tick, things that champion wants to do no matter what. And this is because obviously your ultimate takes any ultimate that's around you. So you're
playing like a different identity, like every.
It's like Ditto, the Pokemon, right? So when you're approaching skirmishes, there isn't really a set way to approach it because it depends on what ults you have access to. You know, I would say there are some baseline reference points like your E playing around your E cooldown, and you know, I would say Lucidity Boots and Lost Chapter and things like that. And Everfrost is a huge spike for Sylas. But you know what I would try to identify is like your style. How do you like to play Sylas? Don't just be generic and think I like to fight people. Like what do you like? Like when the games you do well, why do you do well? Like try and problem solve that. What are the games that feel great for Sylas? What situations feel good for Sylas? What situations feel shit for Sylas? When do I not like to play Sylas? When do fights feel hard for Sylas? These are questions you should ask yourself, and don't be okay with general answers, right? Like the more specific you can get and the clearer you can answer that question, the more replicable things are going to be. So what you're going to have to do is try and make the reference points, create the reference points for yourself of Sylas, just like you would on a simple champion. So like we think of a champ like Malzahar, you've got like a very ult reliant, very mana reliant, needs Lost Chapter, needs Mythic, loves front to back team fights, scales really well into mid to late game, doesn't like multi-threat, doesn't like playing without ultimate, doesn't like fighting pre-lost chapter, likes making picks, but again, needs to be careful with your positioning because you have no mobility, you're very squishy. That's a very clear picture of what Malzahar is at the core of the champion. You need to do that for Sylas. Once you've done that, and you've really thought about this long and hard, when you're getting into the reviews, you can tie every mistake, every death, everything that goes wrong back to some underlying concept. It's like, oh yeah, this fight didn't work because, oh yeah, no shit, I don't have my R, or for example, or oh yeah, I'm not at my level 7 because Sylas, I believe, is is actually a level based champion. Like you need level 7, level 9. You want your like W max on Q max or whatever it is, 4 points in W, whatever it is. Like you actually have break points that really change because especially if you go W max, you get a lot of healing off your W, and like there's a very big difference between having like 2 points W and 4 points W and max and stuff like that. So you're gonna have to really play around with that, observe how other Sylas players play, try and create these rules, if you will, for the champion, and then that is how you're going to bring about consistency. Because what you've done is you've developed a mass amount of instinct and intuition. Now what you got to do is, now we've got this feel and instinct and intuition on one side, you're going to now try and connect it with logic and really core actual concepts on the other side and join them in the middle. That's what your goal is. That's your mission, which is not easy to do, but that's the only way you're going to do it.
So your advice of the way that he's going to build up confidence again is getting into the details, really.
Yes.
Because that's going to distract him, because it's all easy to be like, big pitch, oh, no, I'm
so
never going to play
it. General.
Yeah.
Because general doesn't get you anywhere. That is why he's struggling, because he's probably got this he's just flowing, like letting his instincts flow, but because he hasn't sharpened those instincts, he's taken like every fight. Like I'm guaranteed he's like sending it every fight with his E, not thinking about like major spikes, win cons, like where his team is, what his role is in the competition, just sending it. So like what I do when I get clients that are playing a one trick, or maybe they're playing a champ that they've previously had a lot of experience with, I really try to tie back to like, what does this champ really want to do? What are you trying to do here? And if they can't articulate what they're trying to do, then there's a problem. They won't be able to, they can't be consistent. They won't be able to develop confidence. It's just a flip. So these players, they need to get very clear on what they want and be able to answer these questions. That's your goal. That's your like challenge for this year with the champion. That's what I would say.
I like it. I don't really have anything more to add there. That's why we talk about getting the details. It's just the medicine to everything. Confidence issues. You're sort of like distracting yourself in a way, like, because you can have so many things, like thinking again, big picture, like, oh my God, I've lost my confidence. I only know how to play the Vlad and Akshan now. It's fun. That's the thing as well. It's the curiosity. And this is what we love about League. Like, I think okay, I'm a Diamond Sylas player magically. It's like, that's boring. It's about the journey. That's the fun part. And then you're going to learn League and learn how to learn League, and that's the fun part. All right, moving on here. Our next question is from Eric. The title of his email is Using Amateur Teams as a SoloQ Motivator. Dear Curtis and Nathan, hello, greetings from New Jersey. My name is Eric, and about a month ago, I formed an amateur team of Diamond/Master players with my friends to experience what League as a 5v5 team game could be and hopefully win some small tournaments. I'm well aware, as a long-time BBC listener, that your opinions on amateur teams/leagues are quite negative in terms of improving as a player, which I completely agree with. So first, I think we should quickly just double touch on that one. So that's the thing. It's like the negativity in terms of
improvement specifically.
But because what we find is that people use it as a cop-out from SoloQ, and they disrespect SoloQ more because they think they're playing like a completely different game. And the other point as well for that is that
your mistakes are very you're not forced to adapt to chaos as much. So and other people are giving you information. You become reliant on other people giving you information. When you're playing SoloQ, it's all on you. No one's giving you information. If you are, it's very limited. So you're forced to really expand your view of the game and learn to adapt and really break down why things are happening. Like it forces you to understand the game at a very deep level because you won't be able to adapt to things. You won't be able to make fast, quick decisions. But in competitive, it's largely made for you. And the plays are very structured because just the way they flow, competitive games flow.
So we're definitely positive in terms of It's great
a
to
great
have fun with your
experience.
friends. Great experience. That's a good
Yes.
thing. But yeah, if you're going in expecting to improve, that's not where it's going to happen.
Yeah, and view it like this. Like when I view it as like, again, you play a sport during the week, your training and your preparation is when you're really improving, right? Like that's where your work is done. It's the training, the Thursday night, Tuesday night, getting in the reps, doing all that stuff. And then the Saturday or Sunday, that's the performance, right? You don't really improve then. That's where we show the world what we got. That's what amateur is. That's what we believe competitive is.
So he goes on to say, this faced me with a dilemma when I first made the team because I knew I would have so much fun playing in a team with my friends, but I also wanted to continue improving in League and SoloQ. I deeply wanted to find a way where I could achieve both. So when we first gathered as a team, I stressed that all our practice should come from SoloQ, which they agreed to. All of our practice comes from playing SoloQ individually with review throughout the week, and we only played one best of 3 scrim a week, usually on Sunday night. Then we went back to SoloQ and so on. What I've noticed is that this schedule made me more motivated to keep playing 3 blocks each day, wanting to improve myself, for myself and for my team. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think that it is okay to be part of an amateur team where you basically all of the practice is SoloQ, or would this still be a mistake in the long run if I wanted to improve as a player?
I love it.
I think that's great.
I think that's exactly how it should go.
That's my vision of a player on a competitive team.
If I had more time, that's probably what I would do. Right? We would probably do that. If we had more time, we would probably do that exact same thing. We would probably play like local like tournaments every week, play SoloQ a week, and then show what we got. And like you might have discussions about like the way, what comps, like you kind of like what champs you guys want to, like how you would structure the comps given your champ pools. And like, you know, you might talk about, you know, from the games, like you'd get into the details and review those. But there would be, basically no scrims in all SoloQ. I think that's great. I love that it's motivating because you want to perform better. You don't want to let down your team, and you want to be able to do your job and be very competent in those games. And you're going to be able to do that if you play a lot of SoloQ. So I think that is basically ideal. That is the perfect setup.
I agree. Great stuff, Eric. You know, there's actually even just to demonstrate, guys, how much in terms of like getting on comms and stuff. Remember we had that Nautilus Ezreal game? I was playing Nautilus, we were playing Ezreal.
Yeah.
And I like called you on Discord. You just cancelled it saying like, no, I'll play worse. Like, guys, like you might have to also see in our match history as well. Like, because we play it around the same time during the day, like we actually sometimes we're on the same team, right? We're not on comms, guys.
We're never on comms.
Because we will play worse.
Think about that though. Like we played with each other for so long.
You could say
people would
we have
think
so
we're
much
on
synergy
comms every time, though, but we've never on comms.
Never.
Because I know I'll play worse.
Yep. And I'll also play worse. I want to play my game and learn my way and make my decisions and lose my way.
Yes, correct.
All right.
That's right. It's not even. It's actually a 2-part thing, right? It's like we know it's lowering our chances of winning, and we get less learning. It's both.
Yep.
Sure, there might be that one play that game where we're kind of aligned and like a little bit better, but like we're talking about the game in totality. The negatives will outweigh the positives.
Yep.
Just by sheer just by compensating and getting in each other's head, and then me overcomplicating, you overcomplicate the game. You know, that's the way it would be.
Yeah. And we guys, I can tell you, we do just fine in those games. Like I play exactly how I normally would play, and the game just comes together. It's the same game.
You know, when we're mid jungle, I feel like we win almost every game, don't we?
We what?
When you're jungle, I'm mid on the same team.
Recently, we've won most of those.
I think we win most of them, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
That Nautilus Ezreal game that I'm talking about, we lost that one, but we played pretty good.
I think we played well that game. Yeah, we actually did well,
even though no comms. So yeah, that's just I just want to get that example out there because people think that we're like this crazy duo synergy. Like we do not.
Don't even com.
Don't care about that. All right, that's it for Mailbag today. Hope this was helpful, this episode, guys.
Love it.
Let us know in the comments what you thought of the episode, and we'll see you next week.